course. To me, Europe, NATO, America, they play a big part. They play the most part of what is happening right now in Ukraine from 2014 with the coup d'etat, in Maidan to till now. You don't even have a mandate for that. You don't have nothing. You have no legitimacy to do that. You've just been put in place by your Western supporters. And so the West, as far as I'm concerned, the West is totally responsible for what's happening right now in Ukraine. We depend on stuff that is produced by a country that is wishing to dominate the whole world, and he's been wishing for like a century now, and that now is, for example, putting tariffs on us, and our economy is going to suffer, and it's only our fault. We have nobody to blame for this, only ourselves. I've been forced to learn English. In school I didn't have no choice. You are forced, not only in France, in other countries as well, in Russia as well. You are forced. They force English upon you, and so you might not notice it, but you are forced to speak English, and so it's also a kind of tyranny, in my opinion.
Zvezda Holding presents Dynamic Spectrum Talks now.
Hello, dear friends. This is the Dynamic Spectrum Talks podcast, a unique space where we, together with fascinating people from all over the planet, discover new horizon of mutual understanding and search for invisible threads linking our cultures and people. We try to break down the barriers dividing us and look for common values that help us become closer to each other. In our world full of challenges, we keep following one principle: freedom of speech, friendship, and shared trust are the basis of our dialogue. I am Anna Shafrana, and this is my colleague, Yuri Lindra.
Greetings, everyone.
And today we are pleased to welcome back in our studio a political observer and French language teacher, Michael Legrand. Michael, hello.
Nice to see you.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous?
Ça va très bien, je vous remercie. Vous parlez très bien français.
Un petit peu. Je parle un petit peu. Michael, during our last or previous meeting, we talked a lot about commonalities that we have, between Russia and France, between Russian people and French people, about common pages of history. But today, let me ask you to shift a little bit our discussion towards current geopolitical agenda, especially keeping in mind that a lot of happening these days in Europe. And challenges and problems that exist or arise in certain places in Europe, for example, in France, affect everyone, and Russia as well, because we basically live on the same continent, in the same space. And one of the hot news of the past days was that the French court sentenced Marine Le Pen, sentenced Marine Le Pen, the head of French parliamentary party National Rally, to 4 years in prison and immediate disenfranchisement for 5 years for allegedly embezzlement of public funds. In general, this phenomenon has gradually become common practice in, let's say, so-called democratic countries, especially in Europe. But politicians all around the world and public figures and even Donald Trump reacted to Le Pen's sentence, and for example, Donald Trump said that this is a witch hunt against Marine Le Pen, is another case where the European left politicians used the law to silence or to suppress opponents. So my question is, how do the French people perceive and react to current news, and isn't it a violation of democracy currently we observe in France?
Well, she actually gathered her supporters in Paris on Sunday, and as it turned out, there were a few people. In fact, she thought there would be a lot of people to come and support her in this time of difficulties with justice. But few people turned out, and there are theories about why People do not support her so much. Of course, if you ask French people, they will tell you how it is. So, in fact, okay, there are facts, and the party did use money for other purposes and not for European tasks and European work. But on the other hand, she could have been handed a sentence much lighter, like it has been for other political figures, and so it is obvious that they used this fact to try to get rid of an opponent in 2027 when we have our next presidential election, and so that's it. And as for me, Of course, I think it is a whole joke. On the other hand, it seems to me that it shows that Le Pen's strategy, that was the so-called normalization, so to try to be gentle, be nice. Okay, we'll change our program to accommodate the current government and administration. So okay, we'll stay in Euro, we'll stay in NATO, we'll not change everything. In fact, we'll change fewer and fewer things. And so much that now you don't see much difference between her program and, for example, Emmanuel Macron's program. There's not such a big difference. It was not at all like when her father was leading the party. He had a program that was much different from what we had, and so that's why people voted for him. And so now a lot of people vote Marine Le Pen because, okay, there's the name Le Pen, and so Le Pen, it means, okay, against the system, I want something else.
It's a brand.
It's a brand. Yeah, it's a brand. People don't even look at the program, don't even listen to what she says. Just vote for her because it's a way to say your anger against what's going on right now, and you don't even notice that in fact what she has to offer is not much different now from what we have. And so I think this shows the total failure of her strategy, and that's it. And so and to some point, it might be an opportunity for other figures in the party. For example, Bardella, the guy who is now the president of the party. And other people, maybe younger, maybe new faces, may show up and lead the party into a new era. And if not, then maybe other parties might take the voters who were for the Front National, Rassemblement National. They may divert them and build something more interesting than what we have. What we've had for already now 20 years. Like she's been leading the party for like more than 15 years now, and she's run in 3 or 4 elections, I don't remember, and she hasn't won any. So I mean, for presidential election, like she's won for Europe or the Parliament, but she's not been elected as a president. So. At some point, you have to give other people their chance as well. And so, I think it might be an opportunity.
What about freedom of choice? Because if you suppress one of the key opponents, despite she didn't make, as you said, to be elected as a president, but if you suppress freedom of choice, it means that there is a little space left for people to decide and determine their future. Or it's not the case. Le Pen is Le Pen, but freedom of choice still exists because the party is not under sanctions or under any ban.
If you really think about it, I'm not sure that she was so much a synonym of freedom of choice, because Le Pen, even her father, but herself even more, they are the guarantee for the system that it is going to go on. Because as long as, in a presidential election in France, you have two rounds. First round, everybody runs. And second round, only the 2 first from the first round, they can run. And so the hope now of any candidate is to be against Marine Le Pen, because he's assured to win. Because he knows that there will always be a majority of French people to vote against Marine Le Pen, even though she might have 35%, 40%, 45% even. but she can't reach 50%. And so I think she is the best defender of the system she denounces, actually. And so actually, it might be a synonym of, she's not a synonym of freedom of speech to me. There are all the people in France, all the political figures that are not so well known, but they do have a program, a real program that is really different from what we have right now. And these people, they don't have any deputies in the parliament. They seldomly show up on media, but these are people who could really be a chance for an alternative future for France. So, yeah.
And in other recent news, French President Emmanuel Macron may become Europe's representative at talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Ukraine. The newspaper, The Telegraph, reports quoting a source at the Elysee Palace. According to the source, Macron is ready to take on this role when the time is right. Based on a number of recent statements made by the host of the Elysee Palace, we can assume that he is striving to take a leadership position in the European Union. However, how realistic is this ambition, and how do ordinary French people react to this? And are they ready to support the militarization of Europe? What do you think?
I read the statistics just before coming, and so it seems like 2/3 of French people seem to support what's going on, the militarization of France, of Europe, and the war in Ukraine. So the support for the Kiev regime. I think there's a big part of propaganda in that, because of course, when everybody tells you, when you're not so much into politics, right, and you have no reason not to believe. Actually, you have 2/3 of French people who seem to support what's going on with Ukraine and the militarization of Europe. But when you think about it, if you have all your journalists, all your political leadership, all the people you're watching on TV, they all tell you, or nearly all of them tell you the same thing, that Russia is the enemy. Russia attacked Ukraine. After Ukraine is going to be our turn. Of course, then you have no reason not to believe them. Of course, if you're not so much into politics, that is. If you're into politics, then either you're one of those who benefit from the current system, and then, you support the system knowingly. You know that what's going on right now, but it all plays in your favor, and so you support what's going on. And then either the situation does not benefit you, and you understand that you're being lied to. And then, of course, you do not support at all neither militarization of Europe nor what's going on in Ukraine. And you tend to have a much more balanced relation and point of view towards Russia. And you're not going to see Russia and Putin as, the big evil that they tend to present. Us in Europe. So, and of course, I am from this last part of the population, of course. To me, Europe, NATO, America, they play a big part. They play the most part of what is happening right now in Ukraine from 2014 with the coup d'etat, in Maidan, to till now, when they put in place a government that hasn't been elected, and this government says, okay, now we're going to say no to Russia. We're going to go into the European Union. We're going to adhere to NATO. We're going to stop the Russian language use on our territory. When you don't even have a mandate for that, you don't have nothing. You have no legitimacy to do that. You've just been put in place by your Western supporters. And so the West, as far as I'm concerned, the West is totally responsible for what's happening right now in Ukraine. And, Russia is just doing everything that any sound country would do. They're having a menace that's growing and growing and growing at their borders. You are having, and so they react. They don't want to wait until they're going to be in a situation when they can't do anything to face, and so they took preventive measures. And I totally understand what's going on. It seems to me logical and all. And so, and I'm not the only Frenchman to think like this. I think most of French people who are in Russia, they think the same. Most of, for example, Le Pen supporters, but also leftist supporters. When I say leftist, I mean far left, not the Macron left. No, the real left.
Understand.
And most of them, they totally understand what's going on. And so they do not support at all what's the policy of Europe and of Macron.
Mikhail, you just mentioned the word logics. There was a time when on the TV there was a show with the title, Where is the Logics? Please assist me, help me to find the logic in the next news, in the next statement. French Prime Minister François Bayrou, in an interview with Le Parisien, expressed concern that the import duties that recently was imposed by US President Donald Trump could negatively affect French economy. So, deteriorating its already difficult condition. We all understand that Europe, and France in particular, isn't in a good shape currently from the economic point of view. So, knowing the fact that it will be a prolonged stagnation and the absence of approved budget for 2025, Paris still declares its readiness to keep funding and assisting the Kiev regime and to remilitarize Europe. A logical question. With what resources does France intend to implement such very expensive foreign policy initiatives?
I'll tell you, I have no idea how they intend to do that, where they're going to find the money, because as you said, we're going to suffer from Trump's tariffs. I think Trump is doing everything right. So he's the president of the US. He's not the president of Europe, so he doesn't care what's going on in Europe, and he's right to do that. The fault all lies on Europeans and on French people, because they've got accustomed to live being dependent on America, and so now they're paying the price. When you're not an independent country, when you rely on somebody else, then as soon as you have another government in the country on which you depend, then you are vulnerable. And so that's just sound logic. And so now we're going to pay the price. And so not only do we have to change our economy, we have to think about how to be independent from the US. And it's not going to be with buying weapons from the US. We're going to become independent from them. We have to stop buying stuff from them, and we have to substitute. We have to take example on what Russia has done, since the sanctions, since the war. Russia has changed, everything that, the companies, foreign companies that were in Russia, everything they were providing. Now, these are Russian companies. Okay, sometimes it's Asian companies, but most of the time it's Russian companies that are providing these goods. And so Russia has built its own industry. And so we have to do the same. We have to be independent. And so I think it's a good lesson for Europe. I just wonder if Europeans are able to understand the lesson. And so as for militarization, if it were only for Europe to become independent, I would think it's great. I don't like weapons. I don't like war. But okay, if it's a militarization to buy European stuff, European weapons, not American ones, not F-35, not everything, that would be nice. Okay, that would be nice. It would be better than being dependent on them. But if the goal is not only to buy weapons from the US, but also to use them against Russia to wage a war in Ukraine, then of course, like any sound person would be, I am totally against. And I think, a lot of people in France and Europe are against this. I wouldn't be able to tell you like most of them, just a big minority or not. But yeah, I think it's a disaster for Europe.
And one of the key issues of modern France, and of course not only France, United States, Russia as well, is the migration crisis, protracted and still unresolved problem that undermines the country's internal stability. The flow of illegal migrants, rising social tensions, cultural controversies, and waves of street protests make social division even bigger. Questioning the effectiveness of government policy. Given economic instability and Paris international ambitions, this domestic challenge may become the most serious test for France in the nearest future. What is the current situation and what steps does the government intend to take to finally deal with this migration problem?
I think the French government is doing everything that it shouldn't be doing. So now what are we doing? We are having all these migrants in France, okay? And a lot of them are not very well integrated, okay? So they don't feel French. Some of them don't even speak French. So we have this, okay? It's a situation that we have to deal with in our own borders right now. Not only this, but we are also deteriorating our relations with the countries where these migrants are from. So, for example, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunis. I don't know if you're aware, but we have big difficulties right now with Algeria, with and sometimes with Morocco, but not right now. And it's not going to help solve the problem. I think my personal view is that these migrants, they may be a chance for France. They may be a chance for us because if they respect the law, if they are legal, they respect the law, they do learn French, they come to learn French, and they already speak French and they come to work or to get education. That's all good. That's fine. If they respect the law, they are just going to enrich our country to make it wealthier. But of course, the limit is when they don't want to integrate and they even fall into criminality. Then this is the problem, and there we have to be very firm. We have to say, okay, if you don't respect the law, then you're going to be punished. My personal view is that you shouldn't send them back to any country, because they're just going to commit crimes in their own country there, and they're going to try to come back to our country, and we won't even be able to prevent that because we won't have any control on these people. No, I think the best thing is to open camps like we had before, to re-educate, punish, and re-educate these people to show that the Republic is strong. I'm against death penalty or anything like that, but I think you can always, you can give a chance to these people, and sometimes punishment may be a chance. If prison or the camp is not only a punishment, but also a tool to, send these people back to the right path. And so that's it. So migration, it can be a chance, it can be a danger if your government is weak. If your government is strong, then these people, they will want to either become French, speak French, or they will just want to get education in France, and then they will go to other countries. When they go to other countries, they already speak French, they've got French values, French culture, and they're just going to help us expand our influence all over the world. And so it's going to be only win-win. But right now we have a lose-lose situation. When the migrants come to France, they're not happy, we're not happy, and there's no solution. Like, we won't be able to send them back to the country, okay? Even if we do send them back, they're going to come back. We won't be able to prevent them from coming back, okay? You can stop some boats here and there, but you won't be able to stop all of them. There's no point in that. And so I think, we have to handle the situation some other way, but not like that.
So let me highlight, if migrants, they know their social roles, because these social roles is determined and preserved by the government, strictly. So the government controls the situation and determine the path of behavior and the path of development of its own society. Then migration can benefit the country and society in general, because everyone knows his or her move, and the government strictly controls everything.
I don't know what you mean by social rule. It's a term that I'm not very comfortable with, but I think only the government has to show them what is the French model, the French language, French model, French culture. They have to.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the government
should
give people the will, the desire to either become French, or if not with passport, at least by heart, with culture and everything. And so
you said just correctly, to become Frenchman, to become French. It means that if you want to integrate and to become a citizen and a person of the society you're entering, so it's okay if you still preserve your own culture, your own domestic rules.
But it's fine. If there are various ways to be French. You can be French from Arabic background, speak Arabic as well as French, preserve your Arabic culture, and also have it alongside French culture. It's all fine. I don't think that French language and culture have to replace the language and the culture of the people who come. I think it's better to have them both. Just imagine if we have all these French people from a foreign origin, and they all speak their own language. We can use them. I mean, they can be a tool. They can be something good for France. They can work for French influence in their own country, in the former country. I think it's.
But they must feel French culture inside.
But maybe you're talking about.
Wait. I think we don't have to. I think it's. You have to feel French, but there are many ways to feel French, and I don't think it's good for us to judge. You're French, you're not French. Of course, there are some things that are obvious. For example, if you are an Islamist and you say, everybody should be, should behave like, the Arabs on the 8th century. Of course, it's not what I would call to be a Frenchman. But otherwise, I think there are many ways to be French. Not only to, I think it's really good to have several cultures. In France, we spoke about that with you. We killed our regional languages. So, Occitan, Alsacien, Corsican, Catalan. Very few people now speak these languages, and so they only speak French. Is it good? I don't think so. I think it would be better to have dual, to speak. The more you speak languages, the best it is. I personally wish that alongside French, any Frenchman would speak the local language, if there's one, for example, Occitan. And if he has an origin from some country, then his language from his country. And personally, I think Latin and Greek would be great tools for the human mind. And so that's it. But I don't think there's only one way to be French. There are many ways to be French. And of course, if you don't even speak French, it's very hard to think you're French.
You're talking about a kind of Roman Empire.
Yes. But I think, but France is it is from the Roman Empire. We are
You were in the middle of the Roman Empire. Your territory. So what we're talking about. So we found the common ground that we were talking about from different angles. There should be a common basement. Of course, you may have your uniqueness. I may have my uniqueness. Anna may have her uniqueness. But if we share the common ground, the common basis,
of course.
The language itself, at least one language, should be understandable. Okay, we are Russians, you are French, but we speak English. That's a language.
No. English is not my language. It's not my language.
I'm not talking about...
I'm doing you a favor, but I don't speak English. I'm doing it right now, but I don't adhere to this language. When anybody asks me, sorry, do you speak English? I say, no, je ne parle pas anglais. Okay? Je parle français, я говорю по-русски. Mais je ne parle pas anglais. I don't speak English. I'm doing it right now. I chose to come, and I knew it would be English. And then I freely decided that I'm going to speak English. But no one is going to make me speak English if I don't want to.
Correct.
In the street.
Mikhail,
it's not my language.
We are not arguing about it. I'm just saying that because of differences, we still may find common language to speak, and we still understand each other and respect each other. This is the basement, because as you rightly said, it was your voluntary decision to speak with us in English, and it was our intention also to speak with you in English, particularly in this case, because it's more convenient in current circumstances. This is something that common for us because we share the same, let's say, values and respect to each other. But if we're talking about people that do not share these values and they come with absolutely different approach and they want to force you, for example, to speak English all the time or to speak other language or to change your religion, it's a different story.
Let me tell you, I've been forced to speak to learn English. In school, I didn't have no choice. You are forced, not only in France, in other countries as well, in Russia as well. You are forced. They force English upon you. And so you might not notice it, but you are forced to speak English. And so it's also a kind of tyranny, in my opinion.
Yes, it's true. I agree.
I totally believe right now we should have this conversation not in English. We should have it in either Greek or Latin, but some language that is neutral to all. Not in English. It is even the language of America, of Great Britain, of countries that self-describe themselves as enemies of Russia at times, okay? Maybe not with Trump right now, but it used to be the case with, of course, we might not say that in these words, but it's what you understand when you hear them. And so I believe that if you speak English, if you get used to speaking English with any foreigner you see, to do all your stuff in English, then you're just playing on your adversary's ground, and so you're losing any way you want. There's no way you can win because you're adopting his money, the dollar, his language, English. All these countries, they are part of NATO, and NATO is just a tool for the US to make their policy. You're using stuff that is produced by this country. Do we have in France? We don't have French Google. We don't have French internet. We don't have French Apple.
You have one show. One of the best thing I ever tried. One show.
One show. What is it?
Show. Hot wine.
Yeah, Vincent, that's great. But I'm telling you, we should have all of this in France. Right now, we depend on stuff that is produced by a country that is wishing to dominate the whole world, and he's been wishing for like a century now, and that now is, for example, putting tariffs on us. And our economy is going to suffer, and it's only our fault. We have nobody to blame for this, only ourselves.
Correct.
Yes, and I agree that language is a very important construction which creates the way of thinking of people and so on and so on.
Yeah, I completely agree because first it comes English, then it comes Coca-Cola and hamburgers.
Of course,
and it changes you completely.
It's a whole vision of the world. If you watch American movies, and then you watch American movies, you're asking me, for example, why Europeans, why Westerners have such an opinion about Russia? Why do they think we might attack them? We're coming for them? Just watch American movies, and the Russians are depicted as the villains all the time. And then, okay, that's why now we have this opinion. And even in Russia, you watch American movies. Even in Russia, there are American movies, and it's a tool. It's called in English
That's
soft
what
power.
I dislike very much because you can broadcast American movies, but where Russians represent it in a correct, polite manner.
Of course, but not even that. I think we should think about which movies we watch and we give to watch to the public. If there are movies that have no political
background,
I wanted to say podtext because I'm so used to speaking Russian, but then it's fine. But when you have movies and you can easily see what they mean, like what they depict, in fact, and the ideology they want to put forth, then I don't see no reason why they should be given access to foreign markets. Or if countries do give them access, then these countries are just putting themselves, under the American umbrella. That's their choice.
Look,
but they're paying the price.
It's like a locomotion. First it goes language, and then
Of course.
big coaches like soft power.
Yeah, they all go together.
Culture, I don't know, food, lifestyle, etc. So it's a long locomotion. If you allowed to enter a first coach or the locomotion itself, then you will get the whole, line of other stuff that, with the pace of time, will change your mindset in general.
I totally agree with this.
Yeah.
So, and suddenly, as well, I'm very sorry, but we have practically no time because it is the final of our program. Suddenly, we knew that you are an expert of separate waste collection as well. Let's talk about it and say a few words about it.
Yeah, just a few comments from your side. How did you try to implement your concept of waste sorting that you brought from France and developed and implemented, keeping in mind Russian reality, because currently you live in Russia? How does it work, and what kind of benefits it can bring if the society will change its mindset towards the waste sorting?
Yeah, so I did not bring anything at all from France. Everything existed here. There are organizations in Russia. So, for example, the two most well-known ones are Ekosbarka, if I remember well, and Sabirator. And so they allow people to sort waste, and so and to not to have waste, but to give what amounts to resources. So they don't have waste; they have resources. So anything you're giving for recycling is not waste; it is a resource. And so we've done that in the place where I live. And you do have most of the people in Russia, like in France, like in other countries, they know little about this, and they don't want to know too much about this, because it might imply that they have to change their way of life, and they have to change the relations they have to waste. Because waste is the product of capitalism. You have to be a consumer. You have to consume and consume and consume, and to
get rid of the useless stuff.
Waste. And it doesn't matter how you get rid of waste. You just have to get rid of waste and don't even take care of it. Because if you take care of your waste, then you're going to consume less. Because if you're going to consume less, you're going to understand that your consumption it makes you waste things, but also the things you buy, you're going to be interested in how they were produced, with using which material, like a recycled material or primary material. You're going to also take care of, okay, where was it produced? Was it produced in the other side of the world, or was it produced in my own country where people live? So when I buy things, I give work to people who are working right here. And they are being paid a decent salary, not like children in Bangladesh, So capitalism needs people wasting things all the time. And that's what we've done in Moscow. That's how it goes. For example, you have a blue container where you put everything that's going to be recycled. You're not sorting everything. You're just putting things that are supposed to be later sorted by other people in some factories around Moscow. There are many factories around Moscow. They work 24 hours a day. And then in the gray bin, you put everything that's supposed to be disposed of. It's not a very good system, because still, the blue container looks like the gray container. So in people's mind, it's just
no difference.
Yeah, there's no difference. I think we should have a system at minimal, like in Paris, where we have, for example, we have glass, because glass is something that breaks, something that can be dangerous. It's something that is very easy to. It costs a lot, but it's totally recyclable. So that's great. We should have a bin for glass. We should have a bin for the packings. Stuff like plastic, paper, and metal. should be another bin, and we should have a bin for anything that is supposed to be compostable. So that is food, that is waste of plants, dirty papers, and everything. And when you have all of this, then you are left with very few real waste. That's real waste that can't be reused, like glass, can't be recycled, like plastic, metal, and paper, and can't be composted to make land, to make
soil
for. There's very, very few things that are left, and I think this is a very good way to prepare the future, to take care of our present right now, to live in a hygienic conditions home, but also to respect people who are working with waste thereafter, and also a very good way to prepare the future of the next generations. The children.
We totally agree.
It's interesting that the model you are talking about was realized in Soviet Union when we washed bottles to give it back to the shops. So we didn't use plastic bags, but paper.
And other stuff. So, our packings were reusable. It was not like plastic bags when you don't know what to do with them because it's difficult to recycle. So everything was reused, like glass, like packings, etc.
But after that, the capitalism came to Russia.
Because as you rightly mentioned, capitalism means and proclaims what? You must consume a lot and don't think about the outcomes. You just consume.
Yeah, there's an expression in French. It is to drop the baby with the water of its bath. So that is to get rid of everything, not even sorting what was good and what was bad. And so some people in the 90s, everything that reminded them of the USSR, they didn't want to hear of. Even though if you thought about it, then hey, it was not so bad. It was good. And so you had this thing that's called the consigne in French. I have no idea how you say that in English, but it's when you take the bottle, use it, and then give it back, being given some coins, anything.
Coins or refilled with new milk, juice, etc.
Yeah, it was reused. It was even much better than recycled because recycled, it does take some energy to recycle things. There, it was just reused. And so it was the best ecological approach. And it was in USSR. And so it's a pity that we should examine what was good in USSR and maybe get inspiration from it.
Mikhail, thank you very, very much for this very interesting conversation.
Merci
beaucoup. It was a pleasure.
Merci beaucoup.
C'était un plaisir.
Avec plaisir.
And hope to see you soon in our studio once again.
À très bientôt. Merci beaucoup.
See you.
Zvezda Holding presents Dynamic Spectrum Talks now.